Chin.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so hello, my name is Callum Morrison, and today I'm with my distinguished colleague Moin, and we're going to be discussing the strategy and tactics of brand stories, specifically creating the emotional triggers to connect with customers. So a little bit more on myself. My name is Callum Morrison. I'm a management consultant who has found his way into academia and particularly interested in entrepreneurship and leadership. And at the moment, training the leaders of tomorrow. And I'm with my esteemed colleague, Dr. Moin of Queen Mary University of London. An academic and author and publisher of several books, including the storytelling in marketing and brand communications, 2025. So today what we're going to be talking of is storytelling. Storytelling is a means of breaking through the clutter of features, advantages, and benefits that have characterized marketing. We're going to be talking about storytelling as a toolbox of different types of storytelling. We're going to be talking of marketing no longer in terms of what you make, but rather as a narrative of the stories that you tell. We're going to be talking about storytelling as a means of influencing hearts and minds. Let's not forget that the military found itself furthering its aims through capturing hearts and minds rather than delivering weaponry and bombs. We're going to be talking about creating an environment for customers to share their thoughts, their expectations. We're going to be talking about a space, therefore, for transformation of relationship with the brand, with the company, with the customer. We're going, therefore, ultimately going to be talking of triggers. We're going to be talking of authenticity. So we cannot think of marketing just as just in terms of what we think about. We must be thinking. Marketing today probably is something that we think about in terms of sharing, just as we would be sharing stories in our lives.
Sharing and caring.
Sharing and caring, exactly. Storytelling. Today we're broadcasting from London, from the place where Shakespeare had his theatre. The man who said the whole world's a stage, an allusion to storytelling. And everyone has their entrances and exits. So as we're talking about everyone, as we're talking about people, in order to fulfill our lives, we must have a why. So I suppose the question is, with regard to storytelling, Moin.
Okay, why?
Why? What is storytelling? Why do we tell stories?
Okay, so Callum, that's a fantastic question to start with. So if we just very quickly answer the question, what is a story? So a story is a means of communication. So we communicate a core message, but we deliver it with emotion and logic. So logic and the message wrapped with emotion. How we do that? We use character, we use plot, and we take the character through conflict and challenges, and character transform at the end. Because we use character, and if we do it in the right way, then we can bring somebody, our audiences, into the story world. So they sometimes forget, okay, is this the other character or is it me? If you can do it very, very well. So that is sort of a story in a nutshell. But again, when they are in the story world, you, as a good storyteller, won't want them to go away from the story world. So you need to keep them. So that is what is the plot. You create the plot in such a way, such a beautiful way, it becomes like an aesthetic. So the audience will first of all empathize with the character. They will see that the character is not someone likable, but like them. But then also what object of desire, what the character wants, it is evolving as the conflict takes us in the next stages of the story. So that means you also leave them with curiosity that what happened next and whether character can achieve the objective. That is what is called suspense, empathy plus curiosity. So this is a story. It's not for entertainment, but entertainment is part of it, but it is also communicating a message. Now you said another part of the question is, why does brand tell stories? So very simple and short answer is, brands tell a story to communicate their message, what they stand for, what they care about, how they can solve customers' problem, so on and so on and so forth. So that is the reason. So they want to engage with the customer, as you said in the beginning very well, that not only influence their mind, but also nurture or enchant their heart. So they want to connect with customers' heart and mind. So you see, the power of a story can be explained in a very dramatic way. If I use a quote given by a movie director, Steven Spielberg, very dramatically. I think everybody knows Steven Spielberg. So he said that once upon a time, it was a small gathering of people around a fire, listening to the storyteller with his tales of magic and fantasy. And now it is the whole world, in Japan and in Finland, in the heartland of America, in Italy and Spain, in Singapore and France. Still they gather to hear these stories. But now they gather in multiplexes in Britain, Germany, Spain, Australia, or giant movie places in Mexico. That's what has thrilled me most about Jurassic Park phenomenon. It is not domination by American cinema. It's just the magic of storytelling, and it unites the world. And that is truly gratifying. So this was quoted in the book Aristotle in Hollywood, The Anatomy of Successful Storytelling. So you can see that storytelling help us to find our root, and storytelling bind us together. So it's a massive persuasive communication for brand not to use storytelling and connect with their customer.
Okay. So there's a number of words in there that may be foreign to many people in business. And so that there was the word heart, there was the word desire. And I suppose, therefore, my question before we go any further is to ask you, can these ethereal things really communicate a strategic message to a marketplace?
Yeah, the answer is obviously yes, because when you say a strategic message, it's basically, a couple of things come, that this, what is the purpose, what is the mission, what is the vision, what really company stands for. These are the strategic vocabulary you can see in the strategy management books. So yeah, as I told initially, that a story is kind of wrapping the message with logic and emotion, but that message could be strategic as well. And hence, you will see that there is a strategic story or signature story or origin story or maybe macro story. There are many ways we call it. So certainly, storytelling, I mean, this storytelling or narrative theories can be used to communicate a strategic message.
So, okay, so you've alluded there to there can be different types. Having read your book,
okay, yeah,
you identify 4 types.
Okay.
So perhaps you can just very briefly outline those 4 types, and then we'll move on.
I mean, yeah, I approach a different way. I mean, it's although I just put it in that way so that readers can comprehend. But so I say that first of all, let's not just go into how many types, rather what are they, because many people can express it in different ways. So I don't want to put myself in a way that I'm the authority. So one of the types is the strategic story. As I said, that is also the signature story. That means the founding story. So here you want to tell that why the company actually was founded, what they stand for. So you give the sort of like, say, background of the story, the brand or the company. So you see that in American, the industry, many companies, they stand for like genius in the garage. So you can see Apple, it was created in garage. Then you can see many other companies like, the Amazon, it was created in a small room. So this is like, it's not about that, it's like rag to riches storytelling style. So you come from nowhere, but then you have conquered the world, and by serving the customer. And customer want to be part of this movement. So that is, it's not just about giving a product, but there is also tactical story. But I can give examples like as we go forward. I'm just giving the types very quickly.
Let's give the basics.
Yeah. This tactical story is sort of like tactics. So it's not a strategy like long term. It's like short term things. So maybe sales is going down. So you come up with a campaign whereby you try to show that your product is a better product, or your product can solve the customer's problem. So that's tactical story. But then again, another story you can see today is the user-generated stories. So customers are telling a story. So it's become the conversation. So you can see for Airbnb or say Uber, the customer experience, they share the experience. That is kind of the another types of stories. But there are many other stories, like say 7 types of stories. We can also categorize them based on the brand research that has evolved over last couple of years.
Okay, well, let's get into those in a little while. So you alluded there to Apple and the famous starting of the business in a garage. And I believe that was the same case with Hewlett-Packard as well, famously starting in a garage.
Yeah.
Perhaps you can give another example of, say, another firm where an entrepreneur. I'm not saying that Apple weren't entrepreneurial, but an entrepreneur has a vision. Can you think of somebody who has had a vision of a business and turned it into a story?
I think, to be honest with you, if you talk about visionary leader, I would say the 2 founders of Google and Facebook founder, Mark Zuckerberg, they are very, very visionary, because what they envision is, obviously, I will come back to Steve Jobs and Bill Gates as well, but I mean, you know about them, definitely, everybody knows. They are the people who could foresee that we are moving into a different world as soon as the internet was invented. So many people invested in online companies thinking that it is the future, but they didn't realize that, okay, it's the wave 1.0, it cannot actually interact with people. But you see, Google, they could understand that it's going to be a new world, and where data will be everything. And because you see, human being, I use this metaphor that we have got a mind, head, we can think, so we are curious, we want to know. And Google created a search engine so that we want to, so it has given us the power to navigate into through the vast information of the information age. So you have a digital world full of information. How do you search? So whatever you write, it comes. Because if you have to find something from my book, even say when you are holding it, it's very difficult if you could find it if you want, unless if there is a table of content. So think about vast information. So they are very visionary because they could see that there will be a demand for knowledge, and people want to get the knowledge right away. Then you can see that we have a heart. So we want to belong. We want to communicate with people. So when digital age or information age has made the world a truly global village, so would be liking to connect with others. So Mark Zuckerberg created this, the social media like Facebook, so that we can connect with others. So from that perspectives, these are they are massive. Like I would say, they have a massive vision. They could envision like how the world will turn. And you can see now how many people are using Google and Facebook. There are criticism about data capitalism. I'm not discussing about that, but I'm trying to tell you that the leaders who have got vision, they create the future. They don't wait for the future.
And once they've got that vision, then you're suggesting that they then turn that into stories. So stories become the vehicle to communicate the vision.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Do you want an example?
Is that fair?
Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Of course. Like say, if you think about Starbucks, so that's a fascinating story for if we want to use as a strategic story. Let's discuss a strategic story with that example. So Starbucks started in 71, and this was the first wave of coffee revolution because the Americans, especially in Seattle, they could have coffee with their friends and family outside home. So massive thing outside home. Then Howard Schultz joined the company. He was pretty young. He was passionate about people, but he thought that coffee will be an excuse. So he joined there. But then he got an opportunity to visit Milan, and he saw that people are talking, they were celebrating, they were bursting with joy. But at the center of everything, there was a cup of coffee. He wanted to bring that culture back to America, but he could not because he was not the senior management. So he started his own company, Il Giornal, and put his heart and soul into the coffee business and trying to mimic this culture that he experienced in Milan. Then Starbucks found a competition. Starbucks was struggling. So with the support of local investor, Howard Schultz managed to buy Starbucks. So the Starbucks started under the visionary leader or dynamic leader of Howard Schultz. It was the second wave of coffee revolution. What he did, he redefined or repositioned the brand position, or he made a big difference, differentiated the brand. How? So he said that we are not coffee business serving people, we are people business serving coffee. And how did he do that? He said a small story that he told to the employee, that he told to the customers, that he told to Oprah Winfrey. He said that it was an epiphany, and I was out of my mind. I walked in and saw this symphony of activity and the romance and the theater of coffee, and coffee at the center of conversation, creating a sense of community. That's what spoke to me. And I want to bring that back to America. Mm-hmm. So this is the way he not only communicated brand purpose, but he also communicated brand's mission, that's serving the customer, but also communicated brand's values, that what they stand for.
Okay. So one could say that he took coffee from the features, advantages, and benefits that had traditionally stood for marketing, and took it into something more of a story, into the community, the more ethereal, as a means of identifying with people, because that's people's lives, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. So now we see the sort of progression away from these features and benefits, which arguably are artificial and concern the product, to something that we care for, and our hearts and our minds of our community.
It's like transcending product or service. That is the art that is transcending. Obviously, you need to give a good coffee, but you are creating a sense of mission that we are, or positioning brand that we are people business, not coffee business. So we have to
Okay.
make people's life. So that is the inspiration come to employees and also the customer. They get the inspiration.
Okay. So we have a couple of categories of story that you've outlined, a couple of types of story that you've outlined. You talked about the founder. You briefly alluded to more the creation story. You talked about short term. You talked about long term. So maybe 4 types. Not that there are 4 necessarily just 4 types, but for the purpose of a conversation, there might be short term, long term, macro, micro, as it were. And then you started talking of there being 7 applications of this. So I'm going to say to you, so what about product? What about customer? What about culture? How has marketing evolved away from the features, advantages, and benefits into embracing those defined things, such as product, such as customer, such as culture? How has the research evolved accordingly in the last few years?
I think you brought a fantastic, actually, question. So this is not only just we are talking about practice, but we can also see the theory behind the practice. Because sometimes, there is a saying that, the bad theory kills the good practices sometimes. So you need to be clear about. So the theoretical underpinning as well. So the 7 approaches that we can see, the sort of 7 waves or 7 approaches that we have seen in brand research, and I tried to actually see that if each of the approaches leads to one kind of storytelling or not, and I come up with 7 types as well. But let's talk about approaches first very quickly. So before 1985, it was economic approach. So customers wanted to get value for money. Because customers wanted to get value for money, so the stories the brand wanted to tell, they were focusing on function. They were focusing on value for money. We are cheaper, but we are a little better than others. So you get value for money. But then, as you can see that slowly communication is evolving, also internet coming, and say from print media to radio to TV. So they understood that the function is not enough because human being will try to look for more. So they come up with the identity approach. That happened in 1990s. So now they wanted to say that what they stand for. Now you can see the founder story, the strategic story, signature story that matter. So it's not say the identity. So what companies stand for, what is the brand identity? How do we see, like Howard Schultz said, that we are the people business, not coffee business. Then they found that, okay, we are saying that we stand for this thing. This is our identity. But do our customers see in that way? Because what we are seeing or what we are claiming, customer might think it in a different way. So that was the customer-based approach. It's most focused on, say, brand image, like how my identity is actually in customers' mind as an image. So it's the customer actually constructing the brand here. So another kind of a story is evolving. So we are making customer at the center of a storytelling now. So customer telling a story. But you see, Callum, there is a very interesting thing here. Like, computer is calculating, but a man is actually operating the computer. So although customers are constructing brand in their mind, but still brand communicator, they can influence customer by telling the right story. So that is what is the storytelling. Then as time goes, then we can see that its brand is not enough having an identity. So brand is more like a human being, because brand is engaging with human in a way that human wanted to find identity by using certain brands. Say, for example, you are using Burberry or Chanel. So you want to show that you are very exclusive. You belong to different kind of, the category. So we see that, okay, so that is like personality approaches. So brand has got personality now. So Jennifer Acker wrote a article and talked about brand personalities. Then because now brand has personality, it's like very much human being. So the way human being fall in love with each other, so human being now can fall in love with brand as well. And that was the the relational approaches. So now you tell a story where love and other themes and the romance between the brand and the customers, you talk about that. But then
So we've gone from the quantifiable to the qualitative in simple terms. We've gone from the economic, as you described it, which may be translated possibly into what I said, the features, the advantages, and the benefits, to prove the economic benefit to the customer, into the qualitative of a personality. But then we still have to go one stage further and get the customer to embrace it, to really buy into it. And the tool we do that, as I understand it, then is to take, it's a story, and that story makes the connection with the customer. And we have 7 approaches, I think you said 7 approaches. Can I just check before you move on then? So those 7 approaches, and we could go through those 7 approaches, and I'm sure you will do, but those 7 approaches, they can be applied to each of our 4 types.
I mean, to some extent, but they will give a different category of a story. So thing is that if those 7 approaches, if you are taking each of the approaches to communicate a strategic message, then it will be a strategic story. But you can use that approach. But if you want to use this approach but give a tactical message, then it will be tactical stories. If you want to engage your customer and then customer bring this story, that it will be user-generated story. So these are approaches, but you can see that this is the art where you can use it. So if you,
that's the key word, isn't it? It's an art rather than a science. Because for a long time, we've talked about everything being a science, a social science, a pseudoscience. And what you're doing is you're saying, no, we have to think of this as an art. You're pulling people back again and saying, no, it's art. Or maybe you're pushing them forwards and saying, no, we have to go beyond science into art.
I think that's a better way. You just said we go beyond science. Yes, science is there because nowadays we can understand how our brain works when we tell stories, because neuroscience has actually gone far, advanced in a dramatic way. So we can see the release of hormone in the brain and how the brain is working in computer monitor when we do some the sort of experiment. But then there is a formula of telling stories as well, but how you tell, different people will tell differently, and that's where the art comes. So what I would say, that you said it very well, but I would say that it's sort of creating magic at the intersection of science and art. Steve Jobs said something, you remember, that when liberal art meet the technology, that's where something is created, and that blow our mind.
Well, as educationalists, we know that the magic happens in the classroom. You take the content from the book and you articulate it to the students, and then you bring it to life. So any educationalist understands this magic that you can create, and we're perhaps doing on a larger scale in terms of commerce. So you said the 7. If you're going to say the 7, you've got to name the 7. Not that I'm trying to catch you out.
Okay, no, that's fine. So I mentioned 5, which is economic approach, then identity approach, consumer-based approach, personality approach, relational approach. Then there are another 2, which is cultural approaches to storytelling. Yeah, brand research. So you can see that sometimes the brand is so interesting that brand influence the culture and change the culture. For example, if you think about, say, Bangladesh or say India. So here people used to cook food and they have a certain style of taking food and it's very healthy. But when McDonald's get into the country, say they brought the concept of fast food, And there are not only McDonald's, but there are many students coming up into the culture, fast food. So there are some brand, they influence the culture. But it's not the brand only influence culture, but brand is also influenced by culture. So this is interesting because this is a subtle tension between the global marketing and international marketing. In global marketing, we think that the whole world is a global village, and there has to be certain similarity because universal values and other things there. But when we think about international marketing, then we have to also see that, okay, each country is different, or even people within a big country like China or Russia, they could have a different practice. So we need to adapt. So that's why I say if when McDonald's will be, say, going to Turkey or maybe some Middle Eastern country, you might see that falafel is there in their menu. Because so this is the way they will also influence a brand. But there is also community approach, which is number 7. So here it's not only the brand and the customer, they are having dialogue, but here customers and customers having dialogue. So they are creating a community, or they are creating a tribe. Now online community is very popular, but at the core a brand is there. So it's sometimes it is like based on the brand values, they might leave the same brand values, or maybe sometime you can see that say maybe the consumption pattern. So for example, you talk about Harley Davidson. So Harley Davidson, say, like they have a brilliant brand tribe, or you can say brand community. So you can see that something happened in 2003 in Wisconsin, that people from 47 countries, they gathered together, and there was 3 days celebration. They were celebrating Harley Davidson's 100th birthday. There were 10,000 motorbikes and the leather jacket, and people wearing leather jacket. So it's a big demonstration because they are living Harley Davidson in their life. So you can see that how many people you will find that they are putting tattoo in their body of their loved ones, like their wife or husband. Hardly will find any, but you will find that there are many people they are putting Harley Davidson logo. So that's kind of the community approach. One of the examples that I would give you now, it's so fascinating. So you see that one of the employees, so brand not only through stories, brand not only give message to the customer, because they also give message to the employee, because otherwise because unless employee believe in the brand values. Hello, Callum. Hello, do you hear me, Callum?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So because unless the customer believe in the brand values, they will not be able to deliver. So one of the employees of Harley Davidson was asked that, what do you sell? And the answer was like this, that we sell the power of an accountant to wear the leather jacket. The accountant is 43 years old and ride through the small towns, and people are afraid of him. So you see that here, Harley Davidson is giving power to their customers, and customer believe in that. So that is what is the power of a storytelling. But I just gave an example of community approaches from where the story.
What I noticed in the discussion there was that there was a point in the discussion where we were talking about the person interacting with the brand.
Yeah.
And then there was another point in the conversation where we were talking where people had gone beyond that, using that term again. We've come across it again, going beyond, and they were interacting with each other about the brand. So at one point it was interacting with the brand, and then it was interacting with each other about the brand. And that seemed, I mean, would it be fair to say that at that point you are reaching a higher level in terms of storytelling, or you have fulfilled storytelling because a community has been formed for which the story has become the identity of that community? I mean, am I using the right word there? Identity.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. You are absolutely. So we can see that it's like relationship approaches moving to the community approaches. So it could be a number of ways, like say it is, yeah. So yeah, that's fantastic. So when brand consumer is like relationship, but then when customer, but around a brand is the community approaches way to tell stories.
Okay. So it seems to me we've covered an awful lot of ground in about 35 minutes. So, I mean, let's just recap very briefly. So we started off by talking about the why people tell stories. We then moved into can you communicate a strategic message through a story, which you were adamant you could do, you can do. And you then defined 4 basic types of story: the short term, the long term, the founder, for example, were 3 of them. Then you gave us some examples of people who've used stories. Ultimately, they've started with a vision and then they've communicated that to people. They've started off with a vision of the future and built an offering around it and communicated that to people. And people will recall on this in this conversation that included Howard Schultz. And Howard Schultz talking of it's no longer the product, it's more the community. I know you said it better than I did, but that we moved from the product into the community, which is where we seem to be now in this conversation. We've then talked about a number of different approaches, picking up a number of elements such as the culture, such as the customer, such as the organization, such as the product, and then ultimately the community. So again, we pick up that word of community. And ultimately, we're also saying that we've moved on from the economic way of telling stories, as far as I understand, to this more community-focused way of doing things. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's quite fair. Yeah, you've covered it. Yeah.
So we're breaking through. We're breaking through from in the marketplace by telling stories. We're breaking through beyond the clutter of features, advantages, and benefits. We've talked about a toolbox of different types of stories, and tools, of course, are there to complete tasks. We've talked about marketing no longer being just making something. It's about stories that we tell rather than the products that we make.
That's what Seth Godin told that thing about. I think we might actually quickly discuss the 2 popular types of tactical stories.
Okay.
So tactical stories, as I said, that this is it's like we want to achieve short-term result. And that's why it's like the perfect example is the advertising or say marketing campaign. So one of the types is the company-centric tactical stories. So that means, as I told very beginning, that story has a character or protagonist. So what they do, they make the employee or the company founders or maybe managers the hero of the story. And they demonstrate something that people like it from outside, and they leave some values. And then people want to actually be part of that movement and join them. So it's so portraying the company like it's like Inside Out. And it's not very popular now, but it was popular at some time when internet was not there and conversation was not there. And Richard Branson is a very iconic figure who can tell this story, like, how Virgin was created. So he was flying from another country to UK and the plane was delayed. And they were struggling to find a airline and solve the problem. And he took the phone and he solved it instantly. And then he said, okay, if I can solve that problem there, why not I start an airline? So Virgin told many stories through advertisement where they showed that how Virgin employee or the managers, the kind of life they live and the style they bring. So when they walk through the airport, you can see that people look at them because they're sort of portraying certain styles. So that's company-centric story. But now customer-centric story, where customers are the heroes and heroines, and they co-create the meaning and the value. And brand or marketeer, they try to create an environment, or they try to give some stories to customers, and then they pass it. But they also put their own story there. So Airbnb, or maybe Uber, as I told you before, these are they are very good in customer-centric storytelling. Also, the fashion brands, you can see that if you go to their, the TikTok site, you will see that customers are telling stories. But then you can also call them sort of user-generated stories as well, because many of these stories coming from users. So that's very briefly, I just told the tactical stories, which is focusing on the short term, not the long term, or not what brand stands for.
And how would that differ from the more strategic story then?
The strategic story, will set your course, set direction, that what you stand for, what is your purpose, what is your mission, what are your values, how do you do business. But so that's kind of your true north is represented in a strategic story. Like say that Steve Jobs said that put a dent into the universe. What does it mean? That he's challenging everything. Then he said that if you can be a pirate, don't join the Navy. So now people can understand that he's not going to challenge only IBM, he's going to challenge the whole industry. So that means a revolutionary technology is coming. But this is one thing. But tactical stories, like when you go to Apple's website, you will see that very simple. Even they made a product. You see that it's a fascinating computer, a phone. But how you switched on? Just one press, phone switched on and switched off. So simple, everybody can use it. This is a product story, which is a tactical story. That simplified product, the design. And so, so when Steve Jobs was demonstrating the iPhone,
back in 2007.
So he was saying that today we are going to launch 3 products. One is a fast Internet Explorer. Another is an iPod, because iPod was very popular then. And another is a phone. And everybody was surprised. Oh my God, 3 products are coming. But he said that, no, we are going to launch one product, because all of them are in one product, and we call it iPhone. Then he made a drama. So now he's defining iPhone. So iPhone is a product. So it's a tactical story, because he's talking about product story. But he started with a strategic story that, okay, over the period of time, Apple has created a number of things that has not only transformed the way customers live, but that has also changed the course of the industry. So when we sort of launched iPod, we not only attacked one industry, we attacked 16 industries. So you see, that's because there is a very good enmeshing between a strategic story and tactical story. A strategic story suggests what should be the tactical story. It's like a strategy and tactics. I know that, Callum, you are teaching the strategy for a long time. So it's like you can use those metaphors to understand this.
Okay. I think the strategic story then that comes to mind is we're going to the moon.
Yeah.
JFK. Was it July 1963?
Yeah.
We're going to the moon. We're going to the moon. We don't do it because it's easy. We do it because it's hard. You're galvanizing the whole of all stakeholders, and you're saying that we've got this mission, this objective. He was also saying that we're attacking the Cold War division between us. So there was a bigger story in this, and I think many people understood it at the time, although, of course, I've got no idea. I wasn't really there. Or I wasn't there. No way. Okay, so I think what's coming back to the introduction, where I talked of influencing hearts and minds, I think that's come out a lot in this conversation, so much so that at one stage we had to make sure that everyone understood that this was strategic as well as tactical, and not just a drama. We've also talked about places where people are meeting. We talked about the Harley Davidson thing, where it's not necessarily a physical space, but people are meeting. We're creating through our storytelling. We're creating a brand that is an environment for customers to share their thoughts and experiences. I mean, you shared the experience of talked particularly of Harley Davidson, and giving the offering the experience of accountants to put aside their grey suits and put on their black jackets, and black leather jackets. We're talking about more than simply a message. We're talking about a transformation, aren't we? That this is transformative. And I suppose also, in order for this to happen, then we're also talking about triggers. We're talking about bonding, and we're talking about authenticity. Because once you have that authenticity, then people buy into things. So, Moin, thank you very much indeed for your insights today from your book, Storytelling.
Yeah. Okay.
Storytelling in marketing and brands. In marketing and brand communications, SMA Moin 2025. This has been a great discussion. Thank you very much indeed. And we have done it in 46 minutes. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, fantastic, Callum. Thank you very much for your time as well, because I know that you are one of the best anchors that I have come across in my life. I have worked with you, and I know how you connect with your students and how you connect with the industry leaders when you work as a consultant, and communication is your art. So I think sometime when you talk, there is a rhythm in storytelling there, and I also remembered that you were using Michael Jackson moonwalk to explain the strategy. So you can see that, okay, so you can see the future, and then you come back, and then you envision. That's what kind of so you go forward, but then you come back, and then you make the strategy. So that's fascinating. It's always fascinating to talk to you, because I think if we talk, it will be there. So before we finish, I'm just, first of all, again, thank you for my core of heart. So brand storytelling is not merely a marketing tool. It's a bridge between logic, emotion, product, and purpose, but obviously also memory and meaning. So dear audience, if you have got some value, thank you very much. Please also wait for our next episode. But from here in London, I am SMA Moin, and my friend Callum Morrison. Both of us, once again, thank you very much. And stay tuned with Creativity Cafe, because we will be unfolding a lot of creative discussion, and I will think that it will be a good intellectual adda. All the best. Bye.
Ciao.